What's up YouTube, Dad here from Zephyr War Games, bringing you another deck profile. This time I'm bringing you Psy-Frames. A deck that we don't see played a lot anymore, but it's quite a nice deck to play, and it's especially quite nice if you like to say no to most of your opponent's plays. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it and I'll explain through as we go on. So you have 3 Psy-Frame drivers. So basically the way Psy-Frames work is you special out a gear, which are the effect monsters, and then you get to special summon out this guy from your graveyard, hand or deck, and then usually you'll have the field spell and you'll synchro summon straight away. But we'll get to that when we move further along. So Psy-Frame Gear Alpha. So Alpha is the searcher. Alpha is the only one that doesn't negate something. So basically when your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you get to special summon this card and a driver, and then you get to search your deck for another Psy-Frame card. Okay, 3 Psy-Frame Gamma. Now this card starts negating. Again, basically when your opponent activates a monster effect, you get to special summon this card, special summon the driver, and then negate and destroy the effect monster. So, yeah. All Psy-Frame gears can only be activated if you have no monsters on the field already, so you need to keep your field clear, which when we get to the extra deck you'll see why the 2 main synchro cards you use are always banishing themselves. You can chain to certain things, so for example, if a card activates on summon, you chain link 1 of Alpha on the summon, and then you can chain link Gamma to the effect. So as long as they're in the same chain, you can sometimes get more than one Psy-Frame set out at a time. And basically, if you don't have the field spell, when Psy-Frames are left on the field, they get banished at the end of the turn. So like I said, Psy-Frames basically, they just want to keep your board free, build up their banish zone, and then bring back a whole lot from the banish zone. Psy-Frame Beta. So this activates in the battle phase. When your opponent attacks, you activate this card, you you stop the attack, destroy the attacking monster, and then end the battle phase. So he's quite badass. 3 Delta. So obviously with Pendulum format, every time your opponent plays a spell card, you can activate this, negate, destroy, and again special summon the driver. And then 1 Epsilon. You don't really want him because, I mean, 9 times out of 10 when your opponent's activating a trap, you've got a full board. The only thing that this can really negate or to chain to is like Solemn Warning. That's kind of the only trap that it can negate, or that really works, which is why you only run it at 1. 2 card Ds, because you drop them on the field, you activate the effect, you clear your board, draw 2 cards, and hopefully you're drawing into your betas, your gammas, or anything that will help you. 1 Wind Up Rabbit. So if your opponent has an empty board and you have an empty board, you bring out the rabbit, you poke them for 1400, and then you banish the rabbit, leaving your board clear. So that's it for the main monsters. Onto the spells. 3 Psy-Frame Circuit. So this is the main card. This is what you need to protect and need to make sure is always out. So basically, if a Psy-Frame monster is special summoned to your side of the field except during the damage step, you can immediately after this effect resolve synchro summon 1 synchro monster using only Psy-Frame monsters you control. At the start of the damage step, if a Psy-Frame monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can discard 1 Psy-Frame monster from your discard 1 Psy-Frame monster. Your battling monster gains attack equal to the discarded monster's attack until the end of the turn. So it's 2-part effect. Well, 2 effects basically, but the main one is the instant summoning. So usually you'd summon out a gear on your opponent's turn, and then the gear special summons out the driver, and then with the field spell there, you instantly synchro summon these cards into whatever synchro summon you want, really, that adds up. And again, like I said, if this isn't on the field and you just want to stop your opponent by dropping down a driver and a gear, they then get banished, which is when this card comes into play. So Psychic Field Zone. You select up to 2 from remove for player monsters, 1 Psychic Tuner and 1 Psychic type non-tuner, and then send them to graveyard and special summon one psychic type synchro monsters from your extra deck. So what I didn't mention, which is really important, all of the gears are tuners, and obviously the driver isn't. So again, you've got to be really careful with the amount of times these are used and destroyed, and then the amount of times that your drivers are used and destroyed. You want to try and keep them in your graveyard as best as possible. Two-pot duality, because you very rarely special summon on your own turn, and one MST. Could be a twin twister, but you want to be saving your discard for the next card coming up, which is your first of your traps, and probably your main trap, which is Psy-Frame Overload. This card is OP and amazing as heck. So once per turn, you banish one Psy-Frame monster from your hand or face up on your side of the field, then target one card on the field, banish it face down. During either player's turn, except the turn this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and add one Psy-Frame card from your deck to your hand, except Overload. So the banishing is not really an issue. When we get to the extra deck, I'll show you like the main beat cards. I'll bring in that stuff back for you anyway. So to be able to banish something your opponent has face down means they can't bring it back from the banish zone, because it's face down. It doesn't exist anymore, which it just shuts your opponent out big time. Two Fiendish Chains. These can be breakthroughs. I mean, the main reason people play stuff like Fiendish Chains is they usually play Magic Jammers just for the draw power. But yeah, Fiendish Chains are pretty good in this one. 2 lose 1 turns, because 9 out of 10 times you're special summoning on your opponent's turn, so switching them in defense isn't an issue. And lose 1 turn can be really painful for some of your opponents. So like Black Rose, you're kind of stuffed. If your opponent tries to special summon a Black Rose and you've got that on the field, it's not really going to work. 2 Quaking Mirror Forces, these are proxies, but you know, I've got these in all my other decks. They are my staple card now. 1 Torrential Tribute, 1 Vanity's Emptiness, and 1 Solemn Warning. They're all pretty standard on those. They're quite straightforward. And now on to the extra deck. Now we'll start with the main extra deck cards, which are the extra deck Psy-Frame cards. And these are really why the banishing isn't so bad. So we start with 3 Psy-Frame Lord Zetas. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls in face-up attack position, banish both that monster and this card from the field, but return them in the next standby phase. And then the second effect, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other Psy-Frame card in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, add that target to your hand. So you can recycle the spell card if most people are popping that. And you can just recycle the trap or anything like that. And then on to the bigger boss monster, Psy-Frame Lord Omega. This card is very expensive. Well, not very expensive, it's about a 30 quid card, I think, last time I checked. And the reason why is it can be played in so many decks. So people play it in Zombies, people play it in Infernoids. So basically, once per turn during either player's main phase, you can banish this card from the field and 1 random card from your opponent's hand face up until your next standby phase. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target 1 banished card, return it to the graveyard. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 other card in either player's graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard into the deck. So, if you banish your trap to search out your field spell, and then during your opponent's standby phase you return that trap to the graveyard, you can then activate it. So you can then activate Omega, banishing 1 from your opponent's hand, and then chain to it, banishing the trap, add in a delta, a beta, a gamma, whatever to your hand, and then you've got a clear board for next turn. So then, for example, if you then get out another Omega, so you've now got 2 Omegas on the field, during your opponent's standby phase, again, effect, return the trap to the graveyard, effect, return another banished card to the graveyard, effect, banish from your opponent's hand, effect, banish from your opponent's hand, banish the trap again, get another search off, your opponent attacks, you can then end up where you then special summon out a Psy-Frame, and then during your standby phase, they get 2 back to their hand, which is, you know, not that helpful, and then you'll have a field like that. Or worse, when it starts getting to your other extra deck monsters. So I mean, for example, at this point where you've got these 2, you can then start going into your other cards. So like Clearwing Synchro, Stardust Spark, Scrap Dragon. Now I tried out Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is really quite cool. So basically once per turn you special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand, not really relevant. You can't conduct the battle phase of turn you activate this card, but this one is. Once per turn you can destroy a field spell card. If you do, gain 1,000 life points, and you can add one field spell card from your deck to your hand. So, you know, he's kind of a nice one. But the better version, which I forgot to put in the deck, because I've only just got it, is Ancient Pixie Dragon. So Ancient Fairy Dragon, Ancient Pixie Dragon. So basically, after resolving a field spell card that was activated during your turn, draw one card. You can only use this effect of Ancient Pixie Dragon once per turn. Once per turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field, destroy that target. There must be a face-up field spell on the field to activate and resolve this effect. So, instead of destroying and gaining life points, this one you basically, you get to pop a card. You get to draw a card when you activate, when you resolve a field spell. But then once per turn, you just target a face-up attack position monster on the field and then destroy it. And I mean, your Psy-Frames, you're always going to want to have that field spell there, so you're always going to want to pop. You're always going to be able to pop stuff, and you can just sit this guy in defense, a 3k defense. They're going to have fun trying to get past that. And then, like I said, if this is the last card to come out, and you've already got an Omega, 2 Omegas on the field, or an Omega and a Zeta, you're kind of set. Black Rose Moon. Just because you're constantly bouncing stuff. Can't really complain too much about that. Ayazi, purely because it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. And then it can target itself and pop one of your opponent's cards. So you can target one Yangzing monster, you control, and one card your opponent controls, destroy them. Stardust Dragon, so you're either really going to choose Stardust Dragon or Stardust Spark, either or. Fort Ruler Archfiend, just because you're going to constantly keep plushing off this card and lose life points. So basically, if this card destroys a monster while balancing its graveyard, gain life points equal to that monster's original attack in the graveyard. During either player's turn, when a spell or track card is activated that targets exactly one psychic type monster and no other card, you can pay 1,000 life points to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So he's quite a nice one to sit on. If your opponent's got a built-up field and you want to clear it, Black Rose. As long as you don't have lose on turn, remember that. And then Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. He's kind of like a Black Rose, but a little bit better because he'll burn your opponent for life points. So yeah, that's kind of it for the Psy-Frame deck. Like I said, it's not played that much. If you're looking at like value-wise, like how much it will cost you to build this, betas and gammas are about maybe on average about £4 each. Your hardest card to get hold of is going to be your Omegas. Like I said, because they're used in so many other decks at Banish, it's like a £25 to £30 card, but that shouldn't be too hard to get to if that's like the hardest one you can get to. And this deck can be quite anti-meta when it wants to. If you draw the right cards, you're stopping pretty much anything. So yeah, thanks for watching this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll be bringing you a interesting proxy build next. Might not be the best, but it'll be an interesting look. So yeah, stick with us for that. And again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the page for us. Cheers, guys. Happy dueling.